You know what could actually help her? Dare I say, you know what would help Kamala Harris is to actually get her tail down to the hurricane victims. She did some kind of weird hurricane shelter promo op, but she's not actually there trying to do anything, as Donald Trump astutely pointed out today.
The governor's doing a very good job. He's having a hard time getting the president on the phone. I guess they're not being responsive. The federal government is not being responsive. But they're having a very hard time getting the president on the phone. He won't get on, and of course the vice president, she's out someplace campaigning, looking for money.
She's looking for money for her own campaign, not actually to help the people there of North Carolina or Georgia where he was in that moment. I mean, they seem to get how serious this is. Here's Pete Buttigieg trying to rally the troops. He's like, yeah, this is a big deal. This is a hurricane, and it's a big deal, and there's a lot of victims. I mean, of course, Kamala and Biden are nowhere, but hey, at least we got Mayor Pete.
There are a number of things we'd love to ask you about, beginning with this. People who are living in the most impacted areas right now feel like they're living on another planet. I spoke with a friend of mine in Asheville, North Carolina earlier today on an old-fashioned phone, by the way. Prema said, we have no water, no power, no Wi-Fi. We're bathing in the creek, boiling water to drink. There's supposed to be food and water tents, but we can't access info on where they're located. And she says the roads are filled with trees and power lines, so we can't get there anyway. We'd love for you to give us a real-time update, if you would, on what's happening on the ground here and when people like Prema will get some information on how they can help themselves.
Thanks. Yeah, the situation, especially in parts of North Carolina, but really across a number of states, is absolutely shocking. And of course, the best information for anyone directly impacted is going to come from local responders, local authorities. But what I can say from the transportation perspective on the federal side is that we have been engaged with the state leadership, with our folks on the ground, really from the early phases of this, to make sure that we can target resources to help restore that normalcy. You mentioned a number of roads. We're finding reports of hundreds of roads that have been compromised, affected by landslides, mudslides, flooding, as well as a number of bridges that...
Really, I mean, he seems to get how serious this is. And yet you had Joe at the beach over the weekend when he was asked about help for North Carolina. He said, no, we gave them everything already. Are you kidding me? I mean, wow. Right? You know, $2.5 billion going to Ukraine, but somehow they can't get any more money to go to North Carolina. I'm sorry. That's like not playing in Peoria, so to speak, or North Carolina or Georgia or anywhere right now. So there's that. They, again, seem to recognize the seriousness of it, but they're not actually doing anything other than that little photo op. She went down and gave a little photo op at a hurricane shelter for Hurricane Helene victims. Let's watch Kamala Harris try and put on a good face.
And I'm here to also talk about where we are based on the briefings I have been receiving over the last couple of days. I have received regular briefings on the impact of Hurricane Helene, including from Administrator Criswell. And over the past 24 hours, I have spoken with Governor Kemp of Georgia, Governor Cooper of North Carolina, and many local officials. I have shared with them that we will do everything in our power to help communities respond and recover.
It's almost as though she got the message from Trump. You know, the governors can't get her on the phone. So maybe she reached out to try and help that along. I think she's got a real problem. And on top of that, you couple some of the things that she has said in the past about how people should get help and who people should get help. And frankly, I think this is kind of unconstitutional. You can't help one group over another if they all need help, Kamala. I mean, you didn't go to the best law school and you didn't pass the bar exam first time around. So maybe you're a little challenged on these things, like, you know, the way that you think you can just wipe out student loans by defying the Supreme Court. You know, like your friend Letitia thinks that she can go after Donald Trump and charge him $500 million just because she doesn't like the way his hair looks. Anyway, here's Kamala Harris. She wants to apply a whole new standard, I guess, to who actually gets help in North Carolina. This reminds me of Venezuela. Honestly, guys, Chavez put this in. If you wanted to get a box of food every week, you had to promise to sign up for his script. Here we go.
It is our lowest income communities and our communities of color that are most impacted by these extreme conditions and impacted by issues that are not of their own making. And so absolutely. And so we have to address this in a way that is about giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place. And if we want people to be in an equal place, sometimes we have to take into account those disparities and do that work.
So is this going to be the big equalizer? Kamala, you decide to give hurricane victims that fit your various boxes more aid, more help, or some help, versus those that don't fit into your box, they're not going to get any help? Is that how you're going to equal it all out? I mean, this is what people are worried about. And they're also worried that some people that would be Trump supporters are not even going to be able to make it to the polls in some of these critical swing states because of this hurricane. So why isn't she jumping in? If nothing else, to ensure fair, honest elections, you want everybody to have a shot of getting to the ballot box, or at least getting their absentee ballot. So there's a lot of questions right now about why the government isn't acting in a more definitive way, why they're not actually getting out there, why one is at the beach and one is out campaigning when you have a natural disaster. It's not right. It's simply not right, you guys. And you know what? You know who looks like they're actually in charge of the country right now? That might just be one Donald Trump. Here he is. I mean, he's all out in front of this story. And he's making phone calls to Elon Musk to try and get the satellite service, Starlink, set up for some of the residents in these very, very afflicted areas. Watch.
Homes, hospitals, highways, and cars have been plunged underwater. Entire neighborhoods have been turned into lakes. Nobody's seen anything like it. And to every family that's been displaced here in Georgia and North Carolina, which has really been hit. We were going there also, and they don't have communication. They don't have anything right now. We're trying to. I just spoke to Elon. I'm getting him. We want to get Starlink hooked up because they have no communication whatsoever. And Elon will always come through. We know that. And so we're working on that, getting them hooked up. They asked me whether or not that would be possible. And we're going to try and get the Starlink in there as soon as possible because they have no communication. And throughout the region, our hearts are with you, and we are going to be with you as long as you need. It's called an hour of need. You're in our prayers, and we pray to God. And throughout the long weeks that lay ahead, you're going to have a lot of work. But the end result is it's going to be good. We just wish so many people weren't so badly hurt, and in many cases, sadly, no longer with us. We love you.
Good job. Presidential. Making the right phone calls, trying to get people back up and running. I'm not confident that Kamala Harris can do or is doing the same. And it's moments like this that really define a presidency. I remember even George Bush did a better job than Kamala's doing. I mean, he did, I think during Katrina, I remember, lean out and wave from the windows. I mean, it was better. She finally went to the shelter, but it took her a while. Hey, I mean, how are you going to get to the hurricane when you got to do all those fundraisers with all those fancy types in Hollywood? It's a question that's come up.